You see them in photos. Giant stone faces staring across an island nobody lives near. Easter Island, Rapa Nui, 2,300 miles from the nearest continent, the Moai. Almost 1,000 stone figures. Some weigh 80 tons. Some stand 33 feet tall. Dutch sailors arrive in 1722 on Easter Sunday and find an island with enormous sculptures and a population that cannot explain how they got there. Captain Cook shows up in 1774 and writes that he cannot conceive how islanders without mechanical power could raise such figures. But here they stand, and after 2 centuries of archaeology, after drone surveys and 3-dimensional models and carbon dating and experiments, scientists still cannot answer everything. 12 mysteries remain, 12 questions that bend the data, 12 facts that do not fit. If you value documented Pacific history and archaeology like this, subscribe. It is the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you are hearing this from. Also, this script is researched and factual, using sources from the Journal of Archaeological Science published in October 2025 by Carl Lipo and Terry Hunt at Binghamton University, PLOS 1 published November 2025, documenting the 3. Dimensional model of Rano Raraku Quarry with 11,686 UAV images, and scientific reports published February 2024 on Rongorongo radiocarbon dating by Silvia Ferrara's team at the University of Bologna, showing 1 tablet dated to 1493 through 1509. Now back to the information. On Akena Beach, Sergio Rapu Hawa leads a restoration team at Ahu Nau Nau. Sonia Hawa finds an oval object in the sand, white coral, a hole in the center. Red scoria fits inside like an iris. Rapu Hawa tests it against a Moai eye socket, perfect fit. But every European who visited the island from 1722 onward describes empty eye sockets. Jacob Roggeveen in 1722 sees cadaver faces. The Spanish in 1770 see hollow sockets. Cook in 1774 sees nothing but stone. So where did the eyes go? Sergio Rapu Hawa and his team find 6 more eyes during the Ahu Nau Nau excavation. Helena Martinson Wallen identifies eye fragments in Europe in 1989 and 1990 from specimens taken by Thor Heyerdahl in the 1950s before anyone knew their function. More eyes surface at Vinapu. At Tongariki, behind retaining walls, buried in sand, the eyes were made ceremonially. White coral for the sclera, black obsidian or red scoria for the pupil. The ceremony was called opening the eyes. It brought the ancestor to life. The mana flowed, but the eyes were removable. Rapa Nui elders Jose Fati and Leonardo Paccarati confirmed they had seen such objects and knew what they were. In 2012, islanders used replica coral eyes for a ceremonial reception of 2 traditional Polynesian catamarans arriving from New Zealand. The practice returned, but why removable? Some Moai never received eye sockets, 4 Moai at Ahu Oroi, 2 at Ahu Hanga-Tetenga, 1 at Ahu Hanua Nuamea, others transported and erected but never carved with sockets. The eyes marked completion. The eyes marked activation. Without them, the Moai was stone. With them, the Moai became ancestor. Scientists proposed the eyes were sacred, too sacred for daily display, reserved for specific ceremonies, removed afterward, stored, protected. But when the ancestor cult collapsed in the mid-1800s after Peruvian slave raids took 1,500 people in 1862 and smallpox killed the survivors, the eyes vanished. Nobody alive remembered where they were stored or how to use them. 1 complete eye survives in the Easter Island Museum. The rest are fragments, white coral dust in the sand. The mystery is not whether the Moai had eyes. The mystery is why a culture that spent decades carving 80-ton ancestors made the most important piece removable. The piece that gave life. The piece that held power. Removable. They walked, but nobody agrees how far. Carl Lipo and Terry Hunt published in the Journal of Archaeological Science in October 2025. They analyzed 962 Moai. They build high-resolution 3-dimensional models. They identify road Moai, statues abandoned along ancient transport roads. 62 of them measured. These road Moai share specific features: wider bases, D-shaped cross-sections. Forward, lean between 5 and 15 degrees. Lipo and Hunt construct a 4.35-ton replica. 18 people, ropes, 40 minutes, 100 meters. The Moai rocks side to side in a controlled zigzag. It walks. The oral traditions were right. But here's the problem. Most Moai abandoned on roads are within 2 kilometers of Rano Raraku Quarry, an exponential decay pattern. The probability a Moai falls during transport is highest near the quarry and decreases with distance because those that topple never get farther. The fracture patterns on broken road Moai align with vertical impact stress. They fell from standing position. They were walking when they broke. But Paro stands at Ahu Te Pito Kura, 9.9 meters tall. 74.39 metric tons. 6 kilometers from the quarry. How? The walking method works for statues under 20 tons on prepared roads. Paro weighs 74. The largest erected moai at Ahu Tongariki weighs 86 tons. The physics do not scale. A 4-ton replica walks with 18 people. An 80-ton moai would require how many? The rope angles change. The forward lean that creates the inverted pendulum for smaller moai becomes unstable for colossal weights and teitokanga. The unfinished giant at Rano Raraku, 21 meters tall, 270 tons if completed. Carl Lipo admits some statues exceeded practical transport limits. So why carve them? The roads show use, 15 feet wide. Concave cross-sections. Engineered, not incidental. Multiple parallel versions, overlapping. The moai themselves terraformed the roads as they walked, creating bumps and grooves for subsequent statues. But the question remains, if the walking method works, why do most failures cluster near the start? If the method is stable, why does distance traveled drop exponentially? If preparation improves success, why were enormous statues like Teitokanga even begun? Scientists have demonstrated walking. They have not explained the limits. Restored by William Moai in 1960, the only moai that faced the sea. Every other erected moai on every other ahu looks toward the villages, toward the people, toward the clan lands. The moai are ancestors watching over their descendants, the spiritual protectors. But at Ahu Akivi, 7 figures stand and stare west, toward Polynesia, toward the original homeland. Rapa Nui oral tradition names them the 7 explorers. Scouts sent by King Hotu Matua before he led the settlement voyage. They arrived first, found the island, returned, guided the fleet. The moai honor them. They look home because they came from there. Except, Ahu Akivi is not coastal, it sits inland, visible from the coast, but not on it, and the 7 moai align astronomically. At the spring equinox, they face directly into the setting sun. At the autumn equinox, they face the rising sun. James Grant Peterkin, in his companion guide to Easter Island, argues they watch over the village that used to exist between the statues and the sea. The orientation is practical, not symbolic, but no village remains, no habitation layer, and every other inland moai still faces inland even without a village nearby. The 7 are anomalies. Archaeologists propose the site had special ceremonial significance, a boundary marker, a meeting place, a shrine to navigation and voyaging. But no other ahu breaks the pattern. Hundreds of moai across dozens of ahu all face inland. Only 7 look out. The alignment with equinoxes suggests astronomical knowledge, solar observation, calendrical ritual. But why only here? Other ahu also align with celestial events, but their moai still face inland. The 7 at Ahu Akivi remain unexplained, explorers or astronomers, ancestors or anomalies. The data does not resolve it. Red is sacred in Polynesia, but how did they get up there? A moai stands 10 meters tall. The pukao sits on top, 13 tons of red scoria balanced on a stone head. No evidence of ramps, no evidence of scaffolding. William Moai studied this in the 1970s. He proposed the Rapa Nui built earth ramps alongside the ahu as they erected the moai, placed the pukao during construction, removed the ramp afterward. But excavations show no ramp remnants, no compacted earth layers, no construction debris in the right positions. Experiments using levers and ropes can lift pukao onto moai heads, but require teams of people and days of work and precise balance. One slip and 13 tons of scoria crushes the moai head. Yet dozens of moai wear pukao. Some pukao show no damage, perfect placement. Others cracked during installation. Found broken beside toppled moai. The pukao at Ahu Kote Riku was placed in 1968 during restoration. Paris Match magazine documented it. It required modern equipment, cranes, precision lifts. How did the Rapa Nui do it with rope and wood and stone tools? And why the separate carving? Why not carve the pukao attached to the moai at Rano Raraku? Why add complexity? Some researchers propose the pukao held water. Vessels for fresh water. Symbolic or practical? The island has low rainfall. Freshwater sources are scarce. Moai often stand near springs. But pukao are solid stone, no hollow interior, no evidence of carving after placement. The theory collapses. The pukao remain a mystery of engineering, of logistics, of priority. 13 tons placed with precision on top of ancestors. The buried torsos were not buried on purpose, and scientists do not know when it happened. 150 moai at Rano Raraku are buried to their shoulders. The most photographed moai on the island, the most famous images. People call them the Easter Island heads, but they have bodies, full torsos, arms, hands. UCLA Easter Island Statue Project excavates 2 Moai between 2010 and 2014. Joe Ann Van Tilburg leads the team. They expose torsos buried under 15 feet of sediment, rock, volcanic ash, centuries of erosion and mass transport deposits. The statues were not buried intentionally. Natural processes covered them. But when? Van Tilburg finds petroglyphs on the buried torsos, crescent shapes, Vaka symbols, canoes, clan identifiers, protected from erosion by the burial, sharp lines, clear carving. On the surface, Moai, the same petroglyphs are weathered, barely visible, centuries of wind and rain, so the buried Moai were exposed long enough to be carved, then covered by sediment. The question is, how long between carving and burial? Radiocarbon dating of the burial sediment would answer it, but organic material is scarce in volcanic deposits. Soil analysis by Sarah Sherwood shows the Rano Raraku quarry soils are unusually fertile. High calcium, high phosphorus, banana, taro, sweet potato residues. The quarry was an agricultural zone, productive. The sediment that buried the Moai includes this fertile soil mixed with weathered lapilli tuff from quarrying and colluvium from slope erosion. The process was gradual, not sudden, not catastrophic, but gradual over how long? A century, 2 centuries, 5. The Dutch, in 1722, describes some Moai partially buried. Captain Cook in 1774 notes the same. So burial was underway by the 18th century, but the Moai were carved between 1250 and 1500. That gives a window of 200 to 500 years for 15 feet of sediment to accumulate. Geologists say that is unusually fast for natural erosion on a stable slope. Something accelerated it. Deforestation, loss of ground cover, increased runoff? But the timeline remains vague. The buried Moai preserve details lost on surface statues, but they also mark an environmental shift nobody can precisely date. Published in the Journal of Archaeological Science in 2019 by Joe Ann Van Tilburg and Sarah Sherwood. Now back to the mysteries. Bishop Florentin Etienne Jausen in Tahiti receives a gift, a cord of human hair wound around a Rongorongo tablet. He recognizes its importance, asks Father Hippolyte Roussel on Easter Island to collect more tablets and find readers. Roussel acquires a few tablets, finds nobody who can read them. In Tahiti, Jausen meets Metoro Tawa Ure, a Rapa Nui laborer. Metoro claims to know the inscriptions by heart. Between 1869 and 1874, Jausen works with Metoro to record chants for 4 tablets, the Jausen list. But Metoro cannot actually read the script. He recites memorized chants. When researchers compare his readings to parallel passages in other tablets, they find inconsistencies. Metoro reads some lines backward, misses obvious symbols like the full moon in a lunar calendar. He is guessing. By 1877, only 111 Rapa Nui remain on the island. The slave raids of 1862 took 1,500 people, including all the priests and chiefs who knew Rongorongo. Smallpox killed most survivors. The script died. Today, 27 wooden objects with Rongorongo survive. Tablets, staffs, ornaments. None remain on Easter Island. They are scattered in museums: Rome, Paris, London, Santiago, Vienna. The script consists of approximately 15,000 characters, around 400 distinct glyphs, small pictorial symbols carved with shark teeth or obsidian flakes, human figures, animals, plants, tools, celestial bodies, abstract shapes. Written in reverse boustrophodon. Start at the bottom left, read right. Rotate the tablet 180 degrees. Read the next line. Alternate. Thomas Barthel in the 1950s identifies 599 sign shapes, but this is not definitive. Scholars debate whether Rongorongo is true writing, whether it represents the Rapa Nui language, whether it is proto-writing requiring the reader to already know the content. The only deciphered portion is a lunar calendar on tablet C, Mamari, but the calendar cannot be read, just recognized. Silvia Ferrara publishes radiocarbon dating in scientific reports in February 2024. 4 tablets from Rome, 1 tablet dated to 1493 through 1509. Mid-15th century, 200 years before Europeans arrived. Independent invention. If Rongorongo predates European contact, it is one of the few independent inventions of writing in human history, like Sumerian cuneiform, Egyptian hieroglyphs, Chinese characters, Mayan glyphs. 5 times writing was invented from 0. Rongorongo might be the 6th, but the wood is not native to Rapa Nui. Podocarpus latifolia grows in southeastern Africa. How did it reach the Pacific? Ferrara proposes driftwood, a shipmast. European shipbuilding used Podocarpus since medieval times. The tablet might be carved on repurposed European wood, but still predate European arrival if the wood drifted there. Naturally, or it might be younger than the wood. carved later on old timber. The dating does not prove when the script was written, only when the tree was cut. Rongorongo remains undeciphered. Attempts have been fanciful. Indus Valley connections, Hungarian parallels, Polynesian chants, none accepted. The script is lost, the language is lost, the content is unknown. Genealogy, navigation, astronomy, agriculture, religion, we do not know. 27 tablets, 15,000 glyphs, 400 symbols, complete mystery. Nutrients essential for plant growth, evidence of banana, taro, sweet potato. The quarry was not just a carving site, it was farmland, productive agriculture, freshwater source in the crater, rich soil created by weathering lapilli tuff as workers carved deeper into bedrock. The quarrying itself enriched the soil. Van Tilburg argues the Moai were tied to agricultural fertility. The ancestors ensured food production. The statues were not just religious, they were practical, economic. The ruling class commissioned Moai because the community believed they produced fertility. But here is what does not fit. Van Tilburg also finds 800 grams of red pigment in a burial near one Moai, almost 2 pounds, natural ochre. The pigment was used to paint the statues. Rapa Nui used red pigment in ceremonies, painted their bodies, painted their ancestors. But the amount is huge, suggests priestly use. High-status individual. The burial is directly associated with the Moai. Red pigment, human remains, Moai, all together. Other excavations find similar patterns. Abundant red pigment at burial sites near Moai. Human bones clustered around family statues. The Rapa Nui buried their dead near their ancestors. But the connection between agricultural fertility soil and mortuary red pigment is unclear. If Moai ensured food, why bury people with ochre near them? If the statues were agricultural guardians, why the elaborate mortuary ritual? Some Moai at Rano Raraku were never transported. They stand in the quarry, facing different directions, different stages of completion. Were they agricultural Moai, placed intentionally in the fertile soil, or were they abandoned during transport, waiting for moving? The three-dimensional model published in PLOS 1 in November 2025 shows 426 Moai at Rano Raraku in various stages, some carved from the top down, some from the side, some defined facially before the body was outlined, some attached to bedrock by keels along their backs demonstrating how carvers worked underneath until separation. The variability suggests independent workshops, clan groups, not centralized control. But if each clan carved its own Moai in its own quarry zone and the soil was fertile, why not leave them there? Why transport? The agricultural fertility hypothesis and the ancestral burial hypothesis and the clan workshop hypothesis do not reconcile. The data points exist, but the connections are missing. November 2025, PLS 1, Carl Lipo, Terry Hunt, Gina Paccarati, Thomas Pingle, 11,686 photographs, 30 drone flights. January 2024, after a wildfire in October 2023 threatened the quarry. Three-dimensional model of Rano Raraku. Every slope, every carved surface, every production feature. Resolution to the centimeter. 426 Moai. 341 trenches. 133 voids where statues were successfully removed. 5 bollards for lowering Moai down slopes. The model reveals 30 distinct quarrying areas, separate workshops, different extraction methods, different finishing techniques, different carving sequences, different transport directions, decentralized production, small autonomous kin-based groups working independently. No centralized management, no elite coordination, no unified chain of command. But here's the paradox. The Moai all look similar. Large heads, 3/8 of total height, broad noses, strong chins, rectangle ears, deep eye slits, elongated faces, squatting bodies, arms in bas relief, hands on hips, thumbs near navel, no legs, minimalist Polynesian style. Variations exist, some faces wider, some chins sharper. Individualized features representing specific ancestors. But the overall form is consistent. If 30 independent workshops carved without centralized oversight, how did they maintain stylistic unity? Cultural sharing, oral traditions, clan elders teaching, apprentice systems, knowledge passed down, but no evidence of formalized schools, no master carver signatures, no guild structures. The statues reflect shared cultural knowledge, not coordinated labor. Lipo and Hunt argue similarities arise from cultural consensus, not central planning. But cultural consensus requires communication, interaction, shared standards. And if clans competed for statue size and prestige, as oral histories suggest, why conform stylistically? Why not differentiate? Make your clan Moai distinct, recognizable. Some clans used basalt, 13 Moai. Harder stone, higher status, 22 Moai from trachyte, 17 from red scoria, but 900 from tuff. Consistency. And the pukao all came from one source, Punapau. centralized resource extraction for top knots, decentralized body carving. The social organization implied is complex, simultaneously competitive and cooperative, hierarchical and egalitarian, independent and unified. Archaeologists lack parallels. No other Polynesian society built monuments at this scale. No other island culture shows this pattern. 30 workshops, one style, no central control, no explanation. Lighting fires. Abel Aubert du Petit Thouars in 1838. Some Moai still standing. Last recorded upright statues. Captain Cook in 1774 sees a mix, some fallen, some standing. By 1868, all Moai on Ahu are toppled. Every single one, except those buried at Rano Raraku. What happened? Oral histories mention clan wars, the Huri Moai period, statue toppling time. One clan pushes down a rival clan's Moai at night, desecrates the ancestor, steals its mana, breaks the spiritual protection. But oral histories also mention the earth shaking. Earthquakes. Rapa Nui sits on a volcanic island, active tectonics, tremors. Some Moai fell forward so their faces were hidden, necks snapped, others fell backward off their platforms. The fall patterns suggest different causes. Intentional toppling produces face-down falls. The clan wants to humiliate the ancestor, face in the dirt. Earthquake toppling is random, some forward, some backward, some sideways. Archaeologists examining fall angles find mixed patterns. No single explanation. And here's another problem. If clan warfare caused the Huri Moai, why did it happen during European contact? Rugavine sees standing Moai. 66 years later, all are down. European diseases arrive after 1722. Smallpox, tuberculosis, population crashes, social structure collapses. Missionaries arrive mid-1800s. Christianity spreads. Ancestor worship declines. Maybe the Moai were intentionally toppled during religious conversion. Desacralization, rejection of the old gods. But no European accounts describe mass toppling events. No records of organized destruction. The statues simply fell. Another hypothesis. The Tangata Manu cult, Birdman religion, emerged sometime after Moai construction, focused on Orongo village, annual competitions. Clan representatives raced to collect the first sooty tern egg from Motu Nui Ilet. The winner became Tangata Manu for a year. Sacred authority shifted from hereditary chiefs to Birdman victors. If the Birdman cult replaced ancestor worship, the Moai lost spiritual power. No reason to keep them standing, let them fall. But this does not explain the timeline. The Birdman cult was active when Europeans arrived. Rugavine saw both Moai and Birdman symbols. They coexisted. Something changed between 1722 and 1868. War, earthquakes, religious shift, population collapse, external contact, probably all of them. But the weight of each cause, the sequence of events, the tipping point, unknown. 50 Moai have been re-erected since the mid-20th century. Modern restorations, cranes, concrete, metal supports, they stand again. But the original fall remains a mystery. Restored in 1960. Eye sockets carved. Replica eyes installed in 1990. But 4 Moai at Ahu Oroi. No eye sockets. 2 at Ahu Hangatatenga. No eye sockets. 1 at Ahu Hanua Nua Mea. No eye sockets. Transported. Erected. Finished. But never given eyes. The sockets were carved after transport, after the Moai reached the Ahu. The final step, opening the eyes ceremony. But some statues skip this step. Why? Archaeologists propose phased completion. The Moai was erected as a placeholder. The community intended to finish it later, carve the eyes when resources allowed, when the ancestor was ready, when the ceremony was scheduled. But some Moai stood for centuries without eyes based on weathering patterns. Not temporary, permanent. Another theory. Early period Moai. Sergio Rapu Hawa notes some statues lack well-defined eye sockets. Possibly carved before the eye tradition began. But radiocarbon dating is vague. Moai construction spans 1250 to 1500, 250 years. Early versus late is hard to determine without datable organic material. And if early Moai had no eyes, why did later clans not add them during Ahu rebuilding? Rapa Nui frequently reworked Ahu, reused stones, moved Moai, recycled fragments. Why leave ancestors eyeless? The eyes brought the Moai to life, released the mana. Without eyes, the statue is incomplete, powerless. Or perhaps the eyes were optional. Perhaps some ancestors did not require them. Perhaps the spiritual activation happened differently, ritual that left no archaeological trace. Or perhaps the eyeless Moai served different functions, boundary markers, navigation aids, status symbols without spiritual power. The three-dimensional model shows Moai at Rano Raraku also lack eye sockets. All of them. 426 statues. Not one has carved sockets, because sockets were added after transport. But what about Moai that never left the quarry? Were they incomplete? Abandoned? Or were they intentionally placed at Rano Raraku as quarry guardians, agricultural protectors, markers of clan territory, eyeless on purpose? The pattern is clear. Sockets carved after placement. But the exceptions are numerous, and the exceptions have no explanation. Twice the weight of the heaviest erected Moai. Carl Lipo admits in his November 2025 PLOS 1 paper that some statues exceeded practical transport limits. Tetokanga is one. Why start carving? The carvers knew transportation limits. They moved hundreds of Moai, experimented with sizes, learned through trial and error. By the time Tetokanga was started, the Rapa Nui had centuries of experience. They knew a statue that size could not walk, could not be moved with ropes and wooden sleds, could not be erected on an ahu, so why carve it? One theory. Competition. Clans competed for prestige. Larger statue equals higher status. One clan starts a massive Moai to outdo rivals. Carving is public. Everyone sees. The clan gains prestige from the attempt, even if completion is impossible. The Moai becomes a monument to ambition. But carving takes resources. Labor, time, food for workers, stone tools that wear out. If the statue can never be finished, why waste resources? Unless the carving itself is the goal, the act, not the product. Another theory. Religious significance. Tetokanga was not meant to be transported. It was meant to stay at Rano Raraku, a permanent quarry guardian, the largest ancestor embedded in the birthplace of all ancestors. Symbolic, immovable. Sacred geography. But the statue is attached to bedrock, still connected. Workers carved underneath on both sides defining the figure. The keel method, standard procedure for separation. If Tetokanga was meant to stay, why separate it from the source rock? Why not carve it in relief? Leave it connected. And other incomplete Moai at the quarry show different abandonment reasons. Hard rock inclusions, obsidian nodules, fractures. The carvers hit obstacles and started new statues. Pragmatic. But Tetokanga shows no such flaws. Smooth, tough, no inclusions, no fractures, just enormous. The statue remains the largest attempted Moai, a monument to ambition or hubris or something else, but the reason for starting is lost. Nature, scientific reports, Silvia Ferrara, radiocarbon dating, 4 Rongorongo tablets from Rome, 1 tablet wood from 1493 to 1509, mid-15th century, but the wood species is Podocarpus latifolia, native to southeastern Africa, not Polynesia, not South America, not anywhere near Easter Island. How? Ferrara proposes driftwood, ocean currents, a broken ship mast. Podocarpus was prized for European shipbuilding from medieval times. Durable, rot-resistant, strong. A European ship wrecks, the mast floats. Currents carry it across the Pacific, years, decades. Eventually washes ashore at Rapa Nui. The islanders find it, recognize quality wood, carve Rongorongo glyphs. But ocean current models do not support direct drift from Africa to Easter Island. The currents run wrong. Prevailing winds blow east to west across the southern Pacific. A mast from Africa would drift toward Australia or Indonesia, not Easter Island. For wood to reach Rapa Nui, it would need to circle the Pacific, catch the South Equatorial Current west, then the Peru Current north, then the South Pacific Gyre east. Possible, but unlikely. Centuries of drift, degradation, shipworm, rot. Podocarpus is durable but not indestructible. The tablet shows no heavy weathering, no marine organism damage, no saltwater degradation. It looks like wood cut and carved relatively soon after felling. Another theory. The wood arrived on a European ship, pre-1722. Portuguese or Spanish explorers before the documented Dutch arrival. The ship stops at Rapa Nui, trades, leaves wood. The islanders carve Rongorongo decades later. But no European records mention Rapa Nui before Roggeveen. And if Europeans visited earlier, why no mention in oral histories? No trade goods, no metal, no diseases until after 1722. The wood could be younger than the radiocarbon date. The dating measures when the tree was cut, not when the tablet was carved. The islanders could have found old driftwood in 1500, kept it for decades. Carved Rongorongo in 1700. But old wood degrades, cracks, warps, becomes brittle. The tablet is intact, smooth, well preserved. The carving is clear, deep lines, careful glyphs, done on fresh workable wood, not ancient desiccated timber. The African Podocarpus tablet is an anomaly. The 15th century date suggests independent invention of Rongorongo before European contact. But the wood origin suggests impossible transoceanic connection. One of these facts is wrong. Either the wood is not African, or the date is not 15th century, or the carving is much later than the wood, or ocean currents carried African ship timber across the Pacific, or Europeans visited Easter Island centuries before records show, or something else entirely. Scientists cannot resolve it. The tablet exists. The wood is African. The date is 15th century. The glyphs are rongo-rongo, all facts, no explanation. 30 independent workshops carved them without central coordination. A script was invented that nobody can read. Tablets carved on African wood that should not be there. 12 mysteries, 12 questions, 2 centuries of research. And still nobody knows.